Hi, I am Sarah Atwood's burner phone,
Oh, hi, I'm Marcy.
and we are the Watchers in the Basement. What's up, y'all? We are here for episode 11 of season 5 of Yellowstone, and I'll be remiss if I didn't say this shit was bonkers. This episode was absolutely bonkers, Game of Thrones esque, um, Dallas esque, just drama, and it ended with a big death. And Marcy, let's talk about the death. Let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about who got knocked off this episode. So
Yes, do we want to get right into it?
let's get with the gritty, man, and the nitty gritty.
Let's
Let's
get
talk
into
about
it.
it.
All right, so if you haven't yet seen episode 11 of season 5 and you don't want spoilers, pause, go watch it, and then come back. But um, this episode was kind of like bookended with deaths. We see how like John Dutton was actually killed near the beginning of the episode, and it ends with the death of Sarah Atwood. So that was satisfying to me because it felt like kind of justice for like what had happened to John. Now, like, justice with like her being murdered. We still don't know who. I guess we can speculate that it was the, I guess, dark company she had worked with to order the hit on John, but that still has yet to be confirmed. Again, the show's kind of, you know, got backstabbing and things like that. So maybe it was somebody else. We don't know. But yeah, they just kind of got her in her car. Bang, bang, bang. Frank, what did you think of that death? Did you expect the ending of this episode to be as explosive as it was? Hey, Texas
Nah,
Potterhead.
what's up, Texas Pothead? Nah, Marcy, I didn't. This episode gave me like penultimate top vibes as far as like the beginning of the end or second to last episode of like the season or the series. So to get this death was shocking. I'm not mad at the death. I just wish that because like throughout this season, right, you kind of get tidbits of like foreshadowing of like a final showdown between Beth and Sarah, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like the even the episode before where they met head to head and like Beth kind of like choked her out and threw it to the ground. Like you got like this whole bet. I'm gonna get this nitty gritty final showdown, probably in the finale of these two going at it, and then like Taylor's like, nah, fam, we about to take out the game this episode. And I have so many questions. Not with like I'm not mad at the death, but how it went down.
Mm.
So if you're Sarah Atwood, like so in the scene, she's in a meeting with market equities talking about whatever, and then she sees on the news that John Dutton's death is declared a potential homicidal foul play. At that point, and if I'm Sarah Marcy, I'm packing my bags. I'm getting the fuck out of town. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not staying because, like, again, you ordered the hit. The hit pretty much backfires now, and now it just loose ends. And
Mm.
you ordered the hit, so you don't think the people that you ordered the hit to is going to come back and try to take you out to tie up any loose ends. You know what I'm saying. As a black ops company, if I got paid a 40-50 million dollar hit and I thought I cleared it and we're good, and then all of a sudden, like now on the news, it's not a suicide, it's a homicide now, or declares a homicide. Yeah, I'm taking that whoever might know, and Sarah Atwood was one of the people that know.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird for me as far as Sarah. And then, well, I'll stop right there. What are your thoughts about that?
Um, Same. And I guess maybe this was her first like ordering of a hit, which like I've never done it either, so I wouldn't know what to do. But yes, you raise a like great point. If you were Sarah at that moment, you probably, I mean, I guess she was thinking somewhat because she knew to get a burner phone and not use her own like cell phone or mobile devices. But why did she then go to Jamie's house where he could like be there, or like if somebody's following her they could also find her there? So that just wasn't smart. But then also just kind of, again, on the streets in broad daylight, like that's pretty like bold of like the Black Ops company or whoever it was to take Sarah down. And I think I should have thought something like this might happen when we saw, I guess, the guy from the Black Ops company get on his phone when he's watching the news conference and say, like, have you seen this? He's talking to a male. At this point, we don't know who that male is. So that's, I'm sure, another question that people have is like, who is he talking to? Um, but I wasn't expecting her to already get murdered. Again, it was satisfying, like if you do something bad, you should, suffer the consequences. But I was also expecting it to be more for her to suffer more, not maybe like physically suffer more, but like, hey, instead of just being like killed and you don't really feel anything, like now you have to like face punishment for your actions. So maybe like her getting arrested and being, getting sent to prison. I think that could have also been satisfying, right? Like justice for John doesn't mean that Sarah had to die. But it's fine that she did. She wasn't my favorite character, but where does that leave Jamie now is just kind of my next question.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think Jamie's lost. Like he was already kind of like unraveling as it is, right? Like as far as like him pretty much being recused out of the whole lease dealings with the new acting governor. He's unraveling. He doesn't know what to do.
Mhm.
Casey kind of had him shook up as well. So he's scatterbrained right now. He doesn't know what to do. And Sarah was that guide for him. Sarah was the person that was pulling all the strings, that was taking care of everything left and right. And now that she's gone, I don't. This could be the beginning of the end for Jamie. Jamie's a very smart by the book person, as far as like book smart, attorney background. Like in court, he got you. Like he has you covered. When it comes to this dirty shit, like this Peter Baelish type of shit, like conniving type of shit, that's not who he is. Like he's a broken character, right? And like when he does do dirty shit, it eats at him. Like when he killed that reporter in season 3, it took him like he's still not over that. Like he's broke. He became even more broken from that. So now with Jamie having to do more of the heavy lifting now that Sarah's gone, now unless market equity sends another person to replace Sarah, I don't know. That remains to be seen, but he's not built for this type of lifestyle. He's the kind of guy that he pays, the highest bidder to do his bidding, not the guy that carries out the trash and does the dirty shit. So I don't think Jamie's going to fare well moving forward. And now he knows that not only Beth, but now Casey is down his throat. He's fucked. Back to Sarah Atwood. This shock, the death didn't so much shock me, but how Sarah moved shocked me. When Sarah gets introduced to us last season, market equities, I can't remember that white lady's name, the white old lady.
Yeah.
When she says something, I'm paraphrasing, bringing my Viper, bringing my Pit Bull, and referring to Sarah, right?
Yeah.
That led me to believe that market equities, they do dirty shit all the fucking time. Now, this is not their first time. I'm sure they've connived and killed people. I mean, even the hit that was set upon on Beth, John, and Casey, that was on the behalf of market equities, right? Like market equities put that hit in when they blew up Beth's building and they shot at Casey and they tried to kill John. That was all about market equities. So think about that, and watching this episode, I was just kind of surprised how green Sarah looked. She buys the burner phone, but she goes right to Jamie's house. Like you don't think the minute that hit got exposed that you're not being watched. You were smart to buy a burner phone, but you were dumb enough to go to Jamie's house and then stay in town. Like I don't understand that like based on what we've seen from Yellowstone, this is not market equity's first like hit. They've done plenty of these before based on what we saw last season. So I was just kind of surprised at how green Sarah looked and how unprepared she was up to her demise.
Yeah, that's interesting to point out. I think maybe this is the closest she's ever come to maybe like feeling like she's getting caught. Um, I wonder too, at the beginning, we know that she was after Jamie because of what she had to do for market equities, right? Like she didn't fall for him. I wonder how much of it was like maybe she's starting to develop like feelings for him. I'm not sure it's like genuine like love, but some sort of like maybe kinship because they both are like ambitious and like want like the specific thing, which is Jamie to, be governor and to, do market equities bidding. So I don't know if maybe that clouded her judgment a little bit, but she did like she was really definitely slipping. And I definitely don't think she was expecting to just kind of get hit in broad daylight just by like a pair of like nice looking little tourists. What did you think about her and Jamie's just final confrontation?
I took so from Jamie's perspective, I took it as an act of desperation of like needing somebody in his corner. I
Yeah,
think Jamie feels like everybody's against him, and I think he feels like Sarah was the only person that he can probably rely on and trust. And when I say trust, I mean just out of desperation. Like
yeah,
you've been sleeping with this woman, you've been dealing with this woman intimately and business wise, and like this is the one person that you feel like have your back, right? And I think for him, he has nowhere else to turn. So it was just a desperate plea, like, what can we do to preserve this?
yeah,
How can we salvage this? Sarah, I believe Jamie was just a list of like a line of Jamies over the last 4, 5, 10 years that she's been on market equities. I don't think Jamie was the first. I think Sarah has a certain set of skills to make men feel like they're the only one in the room or the
yeah,
only one that she's the apple of their eye. Because again, to go back to last season when the boss of market equities sit her out, she said, "I need you to send out my Viper. I need you to send out my Pit Bull." And I
mhm,
think she is the femme fatale when it comes to like closing deals.
yeah,
And I think Jamie was no more than a mission to her,
yeah,
and she said something too in this episode, like something to the effect of like you're becoming less and less important now.
yeah,
Now, and when she said that, it just for me, it pretty much just solidified how she felt about him. You're only the flavor of the month as long as you have the juice.
yeah,
And once you start losing the juice, I'm on to the next. And when she's in the car right before she gets shot, Jamie calls her and she says, "Oh, that was fast." Like, out loud, like that tells me that I've done this before, and like you ain't the first, you won't be the motherfucking last. So I think for Sarah, Jamie was nothing more than the mission
mhm.
to get whatever done, to get that lease, so we can start building these airports and these properties and all that shit on the Dutton land.
Yeah, I think she said something along the lines of you've forgotten like once the name dies, then like you're not as important, right? Like John Dutton was the man. John Dutton was the name. You're just Jamie Dutton, and like you are big and influential and powerful, or however you may think of yourself as powerful because you are a Dutton. But now that John Dutton is gone, like the name loses value, like the king is dead. So I think that really like got at him because I think that's probably something he's been struggling with his whole life, right? Like having to live up to John and feeling like, he's just not good enough. Him wanting to work at the ranch and John saying, like, no, like, I don't want you at the ranch. I want you to go leave, be a lawyer, and then like do my bidding this way. So I think it's just kind of like building upon like a lifetime of just feeling this rejection. But I think, it's pretty spot on, right? Like now that John is dead, if he didn't have market equities backing, like maybe he wouldn't win that special election as governor. Like maybe the lieutenant governor would win. Like we don't know, but it was just very interesting to see just kind of it all come to a head. And Jamie like slapped her. I was not expecting that. I definitely was expecting her to hit back. But like I think he was probably also rattled not only by knowing that there's an investigation and that they've, declared it, homicide and everybody's suspicious and looking into it. Seeing her just kind of be rattled about it too, I think made him more nervous, right? He was probably expecting her to just give him a little bit more, to calm him down a little bit, to reassure him. And I think she wasn't able to do that as well. So I think like that really got to him to be like, okay, like they're gonna find out what we did.
Yeah, and I don't know, like this episode, as good as it was for shock value purposes, just a lot of different facets, a lot of different people dropped the ball on so many different things.
Yes.
Whether it was the medical examiner, whether it was the hitman on John's death, whether it was Sarah Atwood, like so many people dropped the ball on so many different facets of this show. And I want to kind of go back to the beginning where it kind of just shows how John died, right? Like the truth. And how the hitmen that came in there and skied up, turned off, they cut the power off to the building, to the mansion. Which again, you're the governor. Why is there only one security guard or one officer on staff?
Thank you. One little security guard in his shitty little like SUV who doesn't really think anything of it when he sees all of the lights go out. Like he didn't think to get on his radio and be like, hey guys, like we've lost power to like the whole site. What's going on? This is kind of suspicious. Yes, he dropped the ball. One person, the first person we've talked to dropped the ball.
Like, I don't get that. Like it's one officer on top of that. And then like nobody else. And he's like scared as fuck. He gets there late as shit. He's walking around and then finally like they did all of that. But by the time of 15, 20 minutes rolled around, John's already dead, and he finds a dead body. And it's like, okay, you dropped the ball. And then let's go to the hitmen in question. Or I guess it was 3 or 4 guys. Can't remember how many guys it were. I think it was 3 or 4.
3 guys, yeah.
It was 3 guys? Okay. So one guy muffers John. He puts him in a reverse headlock to knock him out. So there's already like strangle marks around his neck. Supposed to be a apparent suicide to the gunshot to the head. Keep that in mind. A gunshot to the head, self-inflicted wound. Then you have struggle marks around his feet, and then an injection of whatever cortisone injection to like put him down for good, and then the gunshot to the head with the gun. If I pay a black ops service $40 to $50 million to take out a hit to make it look like an apparent suicide, why in the entire fuck are you leaving strangle marks on somebody's neck, strangle marks on somebody's feet, and it's supposed to be a suicide, a gunshot suicide, self-inflicted? Yeah. Come on, bro. Like, what Mickey Mouse operation are we running here?
Yes, I agree. Second person to drop the ball was also the medical examiner who missed all of these things on the first autopsy, the first kind of review of the body. But yeah, I think just
this kind of the governor, like you don't do due diligence to do a thorough medical examination.
No toxicology because it was like apparent, but I think even when it's apparent, when you're that high profile, they still do toxicology to see like, okay, like what kind of drugs or alcohol were in his system to like maybe like make him suicidal, right? Like what was he on? Then they like place like one little bottle of oxy in his medicine cabinet, but that could easily be like confirmed. Like, did this dog, like, were these prescribed to him? Like, did an actual doctor prescribe them? Like, how did they obtain these? Right? Like, that's something that could easily be, a detective could easily like look into that. So I'm glad that Casey used his muscle and his badge to get into the Emmy's office and be like, okay, if you were going to kind of investigate this as a murder, what would you look for?
Yeah.
Because you obviously like just were, like, oh no, he just shot himself, like just, suicide, let's move on. Not important, no toxicology, like let's just close the book on it. Yeah, definitely what kind of Mickey Mouse operation is this? I mean, I would think obviously that I would give more credit to the great Emmys in Montana that would be hopefully more thorough than kind of what this Emmy was.
But you
Yeah.
know what though, Marcy? When I saw that, when I saw the dropping of the ball of the medical examiner, I automatically assumed that the medical examiner was paid off as well. That's what I thought, because I'm like, how do
Yeah.
you just gloss over that and just not do a thorough examination? Like by the bare minimum, you're supposed to do a toxicology report, examine the whole body, not just see a gunshot wound, be like, oh, never mind, dude off himself, next body, next case. Like I thought the they paid her off too, because she just didn't do it. She just looked very suspicious to me. But the
She
fact that
does
she looked
look a
so
little
guilty,
suspicious and shady at first. That's, one thing I was thinking. And I think it probably could have been cheaper for just kind of market equities or like the Black Ops company to like pay off the ME, right? Like we know John has a history of like cancer. They could have just said, like, oh, like it's just, he died because of like his cancer came back or something like that. You could just pay them off to do that. So that probably would have been a lot cheaper and less suspicious. So yeah, the Emmy did seem a little sus at the beginning, but then we can just kind of see that she just hadn't thoroughly looked at the body. And it had to take Casey Dutton of all people to come in and be like, okay, like if you're going to investigate this as a homicide, what would you do? And then like having him just kind of like tell her what he, would do overseas when he was in the military. I thought was great. Probably wouldn't happen in real life, right? Like I don't think that they would allow that, but just to kind of see him like schooling her on that was good to see. I'm glad that Casey was able to do that, because the first couple episodes I felt like not a lot happened to advance the story, and I was kind of
mhm.
getting worried that like what are we going to have for the finale. But I think this episode like really advanced the storyline forward to getting this declared as a homicide, and then like instigating a new investigation of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, yeah, because like the first 2 episodes, it's kind of like setting up. It showed you that how to process grief, right?
Mhm.
And now we finally get to nitty gritty of like what happened, and now the aftermath of what's going to happen now for Dunn's moving forward. Let's talk about Casey now. Casey's the star of the show. Like so far, he's been the star of like the first 3 episodes of like dealing with, grappling with the fact that he might have to take over his operation, grappling with the fact of like how his family's going to now um, processes and move forward, while grappling with the fact that his son, figuring out what his son wants, right? As far
Mhm.
as like moving forward, do you want this life? Do you want to live your grandfather's legacy, or do you want to just go a different path? I love Black Ops. I love Angry Casey, because I feel like with Angry Casey, man, you get this wire earth, like this
Mm.
like hell on wheels mentality, and like when he's rolling like this, the intellect is more profound with
Yeah.
him. For him to pretty much break down what happened without even like the way he broke it down was like you would thought he was in the room when his dad got killed. And
Yeah.
the way that he schooled the medical examiner on like the struggle marks around the neck and the feet, and how he would have failed if he did commit suicide. Um, that to me is setting up for a great Casey run these next 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And where do you think this takes Casey going forward now?
I think it's hard to tell for me, just because we do see that Casey does have, I guess, like these choices that he has been grappling with, right? Like, do I avenge my father and like do whatever it takes to preserve the ranch by whatever means necessary and regardless of the cost? Or do I protect my family? And like, do I make that the most important thing? Right. And do I kind of, because I'm protecting my family, maybe that means that I'm not able to save the ranch and I have to be okay with that. And maybe like I'm not able to personally like avenge my father's death, but I have to be okay with that. And then like, let law enforcement handle that, not me, Casey, going busting heads and killing everybody. So I think that's probably what we're going to see these next few episodes is Casey just kind of deciding and determining what that will be. And I think we kind of see a little bit of that, just Casey not knowing what to do when he's talking with Mo near the end of this episode, right? He's like, you know, I'm just kind of confused by it. And Mo was like, you know what? You've already seen it. And when like it comes to you, you're going to know what's right. You're not going to have to wonder if it's right. You're just going to know. So I think that will just kind of be his journey moving forward as to like, okay, which path is it that I'm supposed to take? And seeing like what are the ramifications of that? Like, do come out on top or do you lose it all? But I think it was just um very interesting to see the duality of like when this episode is beginning, we see Casey and his family moving into their new house, thinking, a fresh start. They're so happy and hopeful to where now like we're to like the present timeline where all of that is gone, right? Like you're not happy, you're not hopeful, you're wondering what is happening, and you have all of these other things that are on top of you now to be like, okay, I could have like this was good 6 weeks ago. Like what happened? Now I have all these big decisions and responsibilities that I didn't think I would have to be making at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to talk about another character that we haven't seen in a while that reemerged in this episode, and that's Clara Brewer. That she was
Ooh,
John
yeah.
Dunn's former assistant, who is now at one point out of a job. And the new governor hires her to be part of his cabinet. I think he hired her to be his chief of staff at one point
Yeah.
in the episode. And in the episode, Claire was uncomfortable because the new governor was pretty much trying to unravel everything that John had put in place as far as like, stopping the lease and the easement that was put in play. And she pretty much quit within 5 minutes of getting the job. And currently she is unemployed by a government entity, and she goes to Lynette Perry, who is the senator of Montana, and pretty much asks her for a job. And Lynette kind of gives her some golden nuggets, pretty much saying that, look, as of right now, I'll make calls and try to put you on, but as of right now, this very moment, you are not a government employee, so you're not bound by confidentiality.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Do you understand what I'm saying? And she did. She definitely understood what Linnell was putting down.
Absolutely. So it makes me believe that you think Claire leaks some stuff to the media, and if so, what do you think she's gonna leak?
Yeah, I think she will do something like that. And like it's funny because the like synopsis of like the episode, at least on like the streaming service I was watching it, was like Beth like finds a new ally. So at first when this is happening, I'm like, oh, is like Claire going to be Beth's ally? Is she going to like feed her information or tell her this? No, that doesn't. Claire is not the one who I guess is Beth's new ally in this, but I definitely think like Clara is just wanting more to like do what is right. I think maybe she feels maybe like a loyalty to John Dutton just because maybe she learned a lot from him, or she just really like appreciated what he tried to do for his ranch. That she was just kind of hearing them want to undo everything, hearing them want to declare eminent domain, right? Like not even trying to do, I guess, like the good way of like, letting the lease go through or like the land be sold. It's like, no, like we're going to take it through eminent domain and like kind of undo everything and kind of screw the family. I think that was like a catalyst for her to be like, no, I can't work for you. Now, like, people need to know what is going on. And I think she's also probably just a little suspicious of Jamie to be like, okay, your father just died in a very tragic way. And
Yeah.
now you're able to be here, like wheeling and dealing with the new governor. I think maybe just kind of like some lights are going off in her head that might want to, make her want to speak out, which I am here for. Like, yes, Clara, like write that book, call those reporters, like, yes, speak your truth, Clara.
So here's my question about that too, because the new governor did declare the state taking over the land through eminent domain. So with that being said, and I'm asking this because I'm kind of confused on this part. Market equities already put down some money on this lease, right? And like now, with the new governor declaring this land eminent domain and the state taking over, would market equities have to pretty much like rebuy the lease or buy it from the state again?
I'm not too clear on that. Like, I need to do more research on that to speak intelligently about it.
That wasn't really clear. That wasn't really clear about like what because market equities they paid for that lease which got paused by John.
Right.
So do they get their money? I guess I'm wondering, do they get their money back from that and then they're gonna just try to buy from the state once more, or is that money just gone? Because the new governor kind of just was like, I'm not gonna just give this contract to market equities. I'm gonna give it back to the state.
Right. Yeah. And Jamie was like, well, you could buy it. And he's like, I'm not doing that. That's like 6% of Montana's like revenue. Like, no, that's not happening. But I think we talked about maybe the first kind of pod of the second part of the season where like we had questions on like, isn't Linnell shady too? Does she know something? Like, I think this episode really solidified for me that she is not shady. Like, she didn't know what was going to happen, because when Jamie and the new governor are talking about like eminent domain, she was like, okay, like, I'm cool with you guys like reinstating the lease. Like, like we had already decided to do and like what, she had done when she was governor, but she was not cool with the state just kind of taking over the land through eminent domain. She was like, no, Jamie, like you've argued against eminent domain to me. Like, why are you now like flipping? So I think like this clarifies for me at least that Linnell was at least not shady when it came to like John or knowing like what happened to him or, wanting to take the ranch from the family, which is good because I was like, okay, like I like that she was able to stand up to Jamie and to the governor and just be like, you know what, like I'm out of here. Good luck, because like this eminent domain's maybe like a violation of the Fourth Amendment. So like good luck with that. Like I'm out of here. And then just kind of also her giving Clara a job and just kind of again like giving her that suggestion that like, hey, you are not employed by the government right now. So, wink, wink. But Clara, like, please make sure you like go to HR first and like are terminated before you start speaking out. Because girl, you do not want to be speaking out before HR terminates you.
Right. And then we have a conversation with Beth and Thomas Rainwater. And it sounded like the beginning of the end of the Yellowstone, the way Beth is talking. Yeah. It sounds like no matter what they do, they're going to at least lose a large part of the land, whether it's to the state, whether it's to, outside investors. And there's a lot of finality to the conversation. And Thomas, it wasn't really clear what he was thinking about, what idea he had, but it looks like Beth and Thomas are going to join forces to see if they can salvage at least a portion of this ranch. And it looks like you might get what 1883 was talking about, the 7 generations, of Duttons not going back to Native Americans. Do we get like a conglomerate Avengers like team up with Beth and the Native Americans coalition? I don't know.
That would be great. I really like the scenes with Thomas and Mo and just kind of them coming to the ranch to give their condolences because they like seemed sincere, right? Like, yes, they were adversaries of John. Sometimes they teamed up with him, right, to get rid of like other people they wanted to get rid of, but at the heart they were adversaries. But I think they both respected each other, which is something that, Beth talked about, right? Like, she said, she told Thomas, like, my father would talk about who he didn't respect. So if he didn't respect you, then I would definitely know about it. Like, you really could, again, like, tell that they were like sorry about it. Like, everything that's happened between them, I'm sure like they didn't want John to be murdered, right? So I would love to see like some kind of, like you said, Avengers Assemble, with like, Beth working with Thomas and with Mo. Who knows what will happen, but it was just a very like, that conversation like really painted the picture of like everything that Native American tribes have had to go through since like America was founded and before that, right? Like, he's like, this is probably like your first, go around with like the government, namely the Department of the Interior. But here's what you can expect, because I know this because this is what my ancestors, like, this is exactly what happened to them, right? Like, their land was just taken, and they're going to tell you that, they're just going to take it outright, and then you're not going to be able to pay the taxes. So then they're just going to give you like pennies on the dollar for your land, and just be like, oh, like, now you don't have to like, bear the tax liability. So I think Taylor like put that scene in again to just kind of paint that picture of like, these are the injustices that Native American tribes have been like dealing with for centuries. Now, like, Beth and like the Duttons like also have to like go through that and learn like what centuries of his ancestors had gone through.
Leave it to Taylor Sheridan to make affluent white people feel like they're being wronged when it comes to like their land being taken away from them.
Yeah.
It's coming from the African American man and the Hispanic woman here on this podcast. Leave it to Taylor to do that. Like, I'm watching this show and like I'm like, these are affluent, rich, resourceful white people, and they're trying to make me feel sorry for these motherfuckers.
I we still do, right? Like,
like,
yeah.
The fact that the ranch is 6% of what Montana is as a state is funny as fuck to me. Like, bro, you almost 6% of Montana. like think about that. Like, you're not hurting for cash. You can still have
cash for though. Like, if we go back to the first part of like the season, like, that's what Beth was fighting about with John. She's like, bro, you have like no money. You are broke. So John was broke. I guess the ranch was broke. That's why they had to like, their cowboys had to leave. Like, they couldn't afford to feed their cattle there. They had to like ship. It was more cost effective for them to ship them all off to Texas with the cowboys to like feed them there. So like, I think we know like Beth probably has her own money from like her career, but John Dutton was broke. Like, so we can, I guess, feel a little bit bad for him. Like, one, he was broke. Two, like, he got murdered.
But a lot of it too is just ego and like just not wanting to change with the times. Like, when you watch episode 1 and 2 of this, I mean, well, not 1 and 2, but 10 and 11, well, 9 and 10 of this of 5B, they talk about like evolving. They talk about like Rip used an example of like John Deere, how John Deere had the tractors. I mean, he had the horses and the wagons. And he had to evolve to like, tractors and shit. Like, and like all these different examples of evolving, and John never evolved. Like, you had all this land. You could have created, like a stockyard company. You could have sold beef, like grade A beef, you know what I'm saying? Like what the 4 Sisters are doing with wine and liquor and all that kind of shit. Like, this is the symbolism of an affluent white man who is just stuck to tradition, who refused to move with the times. And now, not only did he pay for his life, but his family has to deal with the shambles of it, all because his egomaniac ass didn't want to like evolve. And now this is where we at now.
Yeah. Like, she said that, like, we didn't, that's what he left us, right? Like, we have no other options. These are the only options he left us. And that's pretty much what she said. Like, because he didn't monetize it, he wanted to keep it pristine, which is great. Like, I am all for that. But because he knew like all these threats had been coming, right? They've been coming since, when the Yellowstone was founded. We see it in 1923, like all the threats to like their ranch, even back then. So she kind of said it, like, if he had been strategic, right, and decided what he was able to like sell or like lease out, he might have like made that really profitable to like have more of a leg to stand on and to then be able to save the ranch and have more resources for it. Instead, like, again, like you said, like, you're not changing with the times, you're just kind of like staying stuck. You're being like, not only like are you just kind of like set in your ways, but you're being really stubborn about it.
Yeah.
I think, John, like, yes, pristine land, I'm all for it, but bro, like they've been coming for your land for generations and generations. If you would have been strategic, maybe you would still be alive. Maybe you would have had like more money. Maybe your, cowboys wouldn't have had to go to Texas to, keep your cattle fed. So a lot of things, if maybe, again, like you said, the ego would have maybe been a little bit smaller.
Like 6% of like land of a state is crazy. Like you could have sold 1% of your 6% and still be well off. Like you would have been Gucci. Like you could have like built like bed and breakfasts or like hotels for like kind of what the Four Sixes do with the hotels and the cowboys come in, ranchers come in,
Mhm.
to buy whatever. Like you could have, like you said, monetized that and like you wouldn't be here. But I guess if you do that, we wouldn't have a show. So I mean, it makes sense in a
Absolutely.
way, but yeah, the more I
Yeah.
watch this, the more I'm frustrated with John Dutton, like, and like not knowing his history. Like I know he knows about the events of 1883. I know he knows the events of how the ranch was founded. I know he knows the events about his great grandfather in 1923 of how that shit was attacked and like and breached on. Like you just ignoring history just makes you ignorant and arrogant and not smart at all. So and not bad for Rip and Casey got to pick up the pieces.
Yeah. But I guess a lot of people maybe want to turn a blind eye to history, and then we keep on repeating history. So it's a very interesting time in the Yellowstone. It's a very interesting time just to be alive in general. Um, but yeah, I think just that whole conversation, I'm excited to see what happens with Beth and with Rainwater and just kind of having them have some kind of alliance to save some of the land. Like, yes, I want like the Yellowstone to be saved. I don't want it to be sold off all to market equities or to like just outside investors to change it all. Like Linnell talked about it in this episode, as did Beth. Like, look at what's happened to Jackson Hole. Look at what's happened to Bozeman, right? Like, yes, they are growing and that's great for their economy, but they're also losing a part of what made them great in the first place.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it's like it's a hard place to be in, right? Like you want big open spaces of land and families to keep their land and their ranch, but also economies have to grow, and that unfortunately means that big wide open spaces of land are going to be developed. So I think it's just hard all around.
Let's talk about the new governor pulling something that he didn't know that he couldn't do. He sits there and he tries to recuse Jamie from like the market equity dealings with the land on the Dutton
Mhm.
Ranch. Did he not know that he couldn't recuse uh, the Jamie out of this ordeal? Only the judge or Jamie can. Like, was that just poor writing, or was that meant on purpose by Taylor to like put that in the story for the governor to try to have recusing power and know damn well he has no power to do that?
Did he not know that he could do that? Or did he want Jamie to think that he didn't know that he could do that? And to then just to kind of maybe see Jamie's reaction
Mm,
to him doing that. Again, like Jamie said, he didn't do it in my office or in his office. he did it in front of the whole assembly.
Yeah, I have a tweet from Texas Potterhead. I would love for Taylor Sheridan to eventually release the story if Kevin Costner didn't bow out.
Yes,
Oh, like
I would love that
the lower
too.
version. Oh, I think
Yeah,
he knew he couldn't do it. That's why he asked Jamie to recuse himself publicly. Ah, okay,
right.
okay.
And then also to be like, like with what he said in front of the assembly, he's like, I'm not just going to outright do this and all the other things I did without like getting like a vote from everybody here. And that's when I think he wanted it to be public and to say like, oh, like I know I can't do it. Like I want everybody like to be involved with this. But I don't know, like there's something about him that is kind of shady to me. I don't know if like he's that read into like maybe he was inclusion with Sarah or market equities and like he was part of like getting John off. Like I don't think like that shady, but I think there's something just kind of more shady about him. So I'm interested to see like more of like him and like his relationship with Jamie and like how he unnerves Jamie some more. Um yeah.
Yeah, I guess him counting on Jamie to accuse himself because aesthetically it doesn't look good. Your dad's dead. Now it's been ruled a homicide. For you
Yeah.
to stay in these dealings just looks shady on your part. And maybe the governor was
Yeah.
just counting on him to like bow out based on like, oh well, no, that happened before the homicide ruling came out.
Yeah.
Because the governor got upset, like, man, did you know about this? This doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing all of this while this is going on with the demise of your father. So
Like that conversation was a little shady to me because like when Jamie's telling him about it, he's like, oh, like how like basically like wanting to know like how right are they? Like, are they going along the right path? And Jamie's like, no, it's all circumstantial. But I thought that it was just interesting that like Jamie, like, why is Jamie saying that it's all circumstantial? Like, do you have all the facts yet? And then, like, why is the governor like so worried about this? So yeah, I think he wanted to like cover his ass and like have Jamie like publicly like be okay with recusing himself. But I think maybe there's more to this new governor that we may not know yet.
yeah, it's he
Yeah, he
like
did feel
Victoria
really
said,
calculated.
very calculated. Yeah, I mean he's looks like he has visions for Montana that counteracted what John had for Montana. This is his opportunity to like really enforce those now. So, Marcy, you have any other thoughts about episode 11, 353?
Um, yeah, I think just kind of going back to the beginning and just Beth and Rip, we saw more of them, which we always love seeing. And
Yeah.
I think at the beginning, right before, John is killed, Beth really feels like the weight of the ranch and the responsibility, right? Like Rip is getting dressed to go back to the ranch and she doesn't even have to drop him off. Like Ryan's downstairs waiting for him. So I think in that moment she was just kind of like maybe like cursing like damn the responsibility that we have to this ranch. And then like not knowing that a few hours more that responsibility would be greater. So it was just kind of again nice to see like Rip and Beth having like a bittersweet moment, right? They're leaving each other. She's like, I can't do like a whole year of this. Um, and then just kind of knowing what happened later. And it was an interesting balance because like that was so bittersweet and maybe just kind of like really sad for Beth. But then like on the flip side, like Casey was having like just a really good like time with his family, like more hopeful than like Beth's life was. So it was just kind of interesting to see like the two sides of everything.
Yeah. To go back to the new
Yeah.
governor storyline, Texas Party says, I mean, Lenore even tried to warn Jamie, this dude ain't the one to be shackling yourself to. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Yeah, he definitely is not somebody that you can trust. Again, he's a politician. They all have secret agendas that they're trying to push, trying to pander to as far as certain audiences, for sure.
Yeah, and she drops like a good little nugget to him. She said, be careful what you undo. and who you want to do it for. Like, yeah, that's basically like the whole premise of, I think, the rest of the season and the season in general. Like, yes, like maybe this deal with market equities is good for you, Jamie, but now you're really fucked because now they're going to be looking at you. So I think maybe those words are ringing in Jamie's head now that a lot of things have happened in like this one episode.
Well, it's probably a good thing that Jamie is he can plead negligence because he doesn't know who Sarah hired exactly.
Yeah.
So they probably won't go after Jamie because Jamie probably doesn't know. Or the Black Ops company might think that Sarah told him, maybe, and his life could be in danger. I guess we won't know.
His life could be in danger. The company could have also like planted evidence to make it look like it was Jamie. So there's a whole lot of scenarios. And then just kind of before we log off, I think it's kind of now been confirmed that this company used like ex-military because of the way Casey was describing how they pulled those things off. It was just pretty much mirroring what actually happened. So this is like one thought I had that would be kind of outlandish, like if it were true. But what if the friend that Casey called had been involved in it? Like that would be like really real shady shit, right? Like, and just to kind of go along with the theme of Yellowstone of like, you don't know who you can trust. So that would be interesting if that came to happen. I don't think it will, but that was just something that I was like, oh, like, that would be like an interesting like twist if they did that.
Something tells me that won't be the last we see of Kate McPherson.
Yeah.
I think Kate McPherson will be brought back into the fold the last few episodes, whether or not he is the culprit or whether or not he's going to be a comrade for Casey to assemble their own Black Ops team to take down the market equities hired hitmen.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll see more of him. I'm just ready to see like a Beth showdown with Jamie. I think maybe that's why we didn't get a Beth final showdown with Sarah, is because they are just saving this to have like a Beth showdown with Jamie. So I'm just very excited to see like how it all ends and what happens, and for people to just like face consequences because like you said, like sometimes like rich people or like people that are affluent and have all these resources don't face consequences. So that would just be like great to like see.
Absolutely. It's one of the things where I can't wait to see what's going to happen next week, man. But for those who've been following us and watching, and my Yellowstone numbers are doing really, really good, and so thank y'all so much for watching. For those who are watching or not subscribed, please subscribe, man. Like and share. You get notifications to all our other shows that we're covering, live streams as well. Follow on social media, please. The links are in the description. Check out our audio podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Follow us and give us a 5-star rating right now. I think last time I checked it was around like 418 or 419 subscribers. I'm doing right now. # road to 500, man. Road to 500. Let's get 500 subscribers. It's up to y'all, man. Please. Yes, thank you for saying that, Ms. Potterhead. We are gonna do Landman. So the plan for Landman right now, we're gonna do episodes 1, 2, and 3 next Wednesday. So we'll do every 3 episodes as one watchers episode because we have so much going on with other shows right now. But I gotta watch episode 2 of Landman. But I love the first episode. I know Mark saw episode 2 of Landman.
It was good, yeah. So hurry up and watch it. I have thoughts.
Oh, I'm watching tonight. I'll hit you up tonight. So, but yeah, we will do Landman 1, 2, and 3 next Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. But subscribe so you can get all the latest times and schedules and showings of our different episodes. All right. For myself and for Marcy, this is Watching the Basement Yellowstone style. Let's get it.
Bye.